The day was the 15th of October 1995. The aircraft known as the King of the Skies, the luxurious Pan Am Flight 6, lifted off from Hawaii toward San Francisco. On board were 70 passengers and 7 crew members. Everything inside the cabin felt calm and routine. A few travelers flipped through novels. Some stared at the vast blue Pacific outside their windows, while others sank into quiet thoughts about their plans for tomorrow. But then, the peaceful atmosphere shattered. A sudden scream tore through the silence of the cabin. 4 masked men rose from their seats, weapons in hand. In an instant, Flight 6 was hijacked. Terror swept through the plane. Children sobbed uncontrollably. Adults shook with fear, and panic rippled across the aisles. A TC picked up the distress signal, and ground authorities were instantly thrown into chaos as they scrambled to prepare a rescue plan. Yet before anyone could assess the situation, just 5 minutes later, Pan Am Flight 6 vanished from the radar completely. The initial reason was simple. The hijackers had turned off the aircraft's tracking system, but the true danger lurking ahead was far more unforgiving, something far beyond human control. The aircraft had flown straight into one of the Pacific's most violent and monstrous storms. A massive typhoon. Ferocious winds battered the plane like it was nothing more than a scrap of paper. The pilot fought desperately to regain control, but for nearly 2 hours, the storm took command of the aircraft. After this brutal struggle, one engine quit. Moments afterward, the second engine failed too. The plane began dropping toward the ocean like a fireball falling from the sky. Moments before the aircraft slammed into the water, a few courageous passengers made a final attempt to fight back. They attacked the hijackers, overpowered them, and threw themselves out through a damaged section of the plane into the freezing, unknown waters below. The aircraft hit the ocean with a violent explosion and disappeared beneath the waves. Yet against all odds, 60 people survived. Around them stretched nothing but the endless, terrifying water of the Pacific. By sheer miracle, about 100 meters from the crash site, a jagged rock formation rose above the sea, summoning every ounce of strength. The survivors swam toward it and clung to its rough surface, drenched, shaking, terrified. There was no phone, no communication device, no wreckage left floating. Everything had sunk. Then one survivor remembered his binoculars, somehow still inside his backpack. With trembling hands, he scanned the horizon and spotted a faint chance of survival. Half a kilometer away, partially hidden behind mist, was a tiny island. He yelled, "There's land!" An island. Those who could swim leaped back into the water without hesitation. Below them lurked sharks. Above them roared monstrous waves. But the instinct to survive overpowered every fear. After hours of battling the sea, only 15 to 20 managed to reach the sandy shore, exhausted but alive. They didn't allow themselves to rest. Others were still stranded on the rock, so using dry branches and vines, they crafted a crude raft and made repeated trips to rescue the remaining survivors. Eventually, all 60 reached the island, but once they stood together on the unknown shore, reality hit them. This island wasn't paradise. It was completely deserted. A few coconut trees, scattered wild plants, and endless sand. No food, no fresh water. Hopelessness washed over them. Some fell crying, some screamed in despair, and some simply sat in silent shock. At that moment, a schoolteacher named Mr. David stepped forward. He shouted, "If we give in to fear, none of us will make it. We must fight together." His words ignited a spark. They organized themselves and tended to the wounded. Their biggest enemies were now hunger and thirst. A young man named Michael climbed a tall coconut tree and managed to bring down several coconuts. It wasn't enough for 60 people, but it was something, their first taste of hope. They collected rainwater trapped in rock crevices to drink. Under Mr. David's guidance, they divided into teams. Some searched for edible plants, others started building shelters. The toughest task was catching fish. Young men carved wooden spears and waited at the shoreline for hours. After many failed attempts, they finally caught a small fish. When they cooked it, the aroma felt like a feast. Everyone shared tiny bites. Their first shared triumph. Days slowly turned into weeks, and weeks into months. They built huts from leaves and coconut fiber, though the first storm destroyed everything. But they rebuilt stronger and smarter. They learned to smoke fish so it would last longer. A nurse treated injuries using local plants. They planted coconut seedlings and attempted farming. On the beach, they arranged fallen trees to form a massive help sign, hoping a passing plane would notice. One aircraft did pass overhead, but it didn't see them. That day broke many hearts. The first 2 to 3 months were the most brutal. Diseases spread easily. Loneliness crushed them from the inside. One after another, 10 people died. They buried each of them in the sand with tears. Their number dropped from 60 to 50. Meanwhile, the outside world found no trace of the crash. After months of searching, the government declared everyone dead. Memorials were held. Newspapers printed their names. To the world, the passengers of Flight 6 had vanished forever. But on the forgotten island, 50 survivors fought to stay alive every single day. 2 years passed. Life settled into a rhythm. They adapted to the island's harsh reality. Then something extraordinary happened. A woman gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Her cry echoed across the island like a miracle. For the first time in 2 years, there was the sound of life. People wept with joy. The newborn became their symbol of hope. Proof that life refuses to surrender. She gave them a new reason to survive. 10 years went by. They formed a small settlement. Mr. David even created a tiny school, teaching the island-born children about a world they had never seen. They divided responsibilities: fishing, gathering, caretaking. They celebrated the crash date, a survival day. 5 more children were born, but illness and accidents took 7 adults. Their population became 48. Another plane flew overhead again without noticing them. 30 long years had passed. The children born on the island were now teenagers. Adults had become older, weaker, and tired. Then one morning, they heard a sound they had not heard in over a decade. A shipasorn. At first, they thought it was a hallucination, but when the sound echoed again, they sprinted to the shore. They lit fires, waved, screamed. And this time, the ship saw them. It stopped and dropped anchor. What followed cannot be described. The 48 survivors hugged each other, cried, laughed, and screamed. Their 30-year nightmare had finally ended. When the rescue crew reached the island, even they were emotional. They were staring at people the world had already buried in memory. Returning to the city felt surreal. Bright lights, cars, buildings. Everything looked strange and unfamiliar. Many doubted their story until a diary kept by one survivor was discovered, documenting every day of those 13 years. Every storm, every death, every birth. When the media released its pages, the world cried. Later, a book was published. The Lost Survivors of Flight 6. 13 years on the island. This story remains a reminder that even the smallest flicker of hope can break through overwhelming darkness, and that human courage can outlast any storm.